allow that to happen. Well, good morning and welcome. This is our 41st online gathering for Synod rostered and lay leaders in Pacifica Synod. My name is Sarah Tees. I am your coach coordinator for Pacifica Synod. And this gathering is called Coaching for All Seasons, and it is sponsored by your Pacifica Synod coaches. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our coaching team has cultivated this monthly gathering for church leaders to be able to access it across our synod. We hope you find this time helpful as you navigate your challenges and your opportunities as you navigate your missions and your ministry work. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce my fellow coach, Daryl. Pastor Daryl is going to be introducing us into this session. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. And yeah, thank you for joining us. And it's really my privilege and honor to introduce to you our speaker this morning, or this afternoon in your time zone, Don. And this is Reverend Dr. Don Eisenhauer. He is a master certified coach, which the MCC, with the accredited by the International Coaching Federation. One thing I want to mention, an MCC or Master Certified Coach is the highest credential that one can earn with the International Coaching Federation. There's a lot of training, a lot of coaching, a lot of experience behind that. And Don has been an MCC for quite some time. So I don't want to expose ages or anything, but he's been an MCC for a long time and a lot of experience. But he is also the founder and president of Coaching at End of Life LLC, which provides life and end of life training, resources, and coach certification. In fact, his coach certification is now a program of the ELCA coaching ministry. So for people who want to be end of life and grief coaches, there are some in this group here. And so we've had this connection with the ELCA and Don for quite some time as well. In addition to doing end of life and the grief coaching, Don served for 15 years as a pastor and 19 years as a hospice chaplain and bereavement coordinator for 2 hospices in Pennsylvania. Don is the author of the books Coach Yourself Through Grief, the ebook, and this is kind of a testament to his little background there, his picture behind him, his ebook, Life Lessons from Dragonflies, Helping Us Face the Inevitable End-of-Life Issues, and the textbook, Coaching at End of Life, a coach approach to ministering to the dying and the grieving. So again, it's my honor and privilege to have Don with us today as he brings us these words.
Okay. All mine, Daryl? Very good. It is my privilege to be here with all of you. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces. I had no idea that I was going to know anyone here. So this is really a lot of fun. Let me open up my PowerPoint. We're going to do something a little bit different today. It's a privilege to be part of Coaching for All Seasons. First of all, I just want to commend you for doing this every month. I didn't know this was going on and was really excited to hear about it and to be part of it. In this current season, what is it? We're in the midst of the holiday season. It's January 4th. It's the season of the start of a brand new year. I'm even surprised that all of you are here on January 4th. It's a busy time, knowing all that what December is like, and now starting off a new year. I thought I wouldn't be surprised if no one shows up, but was very excited that you did show up and that you're here and that we can spend this hour together. I want to introduce what we're going to talk about by playing a video clip for you. Something that I imagine would be very familiar to all of you, but just to get us into the mood for what we're going to be talking about. Let me play this.
think there must be something wrong with me, Linus. Christmas is coming, but I'm not happy. I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel. I just don't understand Christmas, I guess. I like getting presents and sending Christmas cards and decorating trees and all that, but I'm still not happy. I always end up feeling depressed.
Charlie Brown, you're the only person I know who can take a wonderful season like Christmas and turn it into a problem. Maybe Lucy's right. Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest.
Poor Charlie Brown. I just don't understand Christmas. Instead of feeling happy, I feel sort of let down. Charlie Brown had a bad case of the holiday blues. He said later, I think there's something wrong with me. I just don't understand Christmas. I like all the cards and the gifts and the trees, but I end up feeling sad. You know, for a lot of people, the holidays are a time of joy and happiness and goodwill and celebrations with family and friends. But for so many other people, the holiday time and this time right after the holidays can be a really, really difficult time. And I know Charlie Brown isn't alone. You know Charlie Brown isn't alone. This is a common experience. You know that. You see it in your faith communities, people who are experiencing the holiday blues and the post-holiday blues. And I would bet that there are a number of people right here in this Zoom room who are experiencing some holiday blues. So I want to invite you to do some reflecting today. To reflect on what your faith communities are like and how you're doing in ministering to them concerning the holiday blues and the post-holiday blues, but also to give you some time to do some personal reflection. Saying, where am I with all this? How am I dealing with my post-holiday blues? So as a way to start us off, I'd like to begin by thinking, what are some of the contributing factors that lead to post-holiday grief? And as a way to answer that, I want to introduce another familiar character this time of year. In addition to Charlie Brown, let's see if you know this guy. Everybody know the Grinch? I want us to focus most of our time on the Grinch. And my favorite is this cartoon, the original Grinch story. In case you're someone who just hasn't heard much of the Grinch, or it's been a while since you watched and thinking about what the Grinch is about, let me give you the introduction to set the stage a little bit further.
Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Oh, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm, lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a holly Who wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled for the sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers, nervously drumming. I must find some way to keep Christmas from coming.
The Grinch. The Grinch had such a bad case of the holiday blues that he wanted to get rid of Christmas. He wanted to steal it from those in Whoville. He wanted to keep it from coming. So using the story of the Grinch and the character of the Grinch, I'd like to start off, as I said a few moments ago, by thinking with you, what are some of the contributing factors that lead to post-holiday grief? Because it's important to identify them before we figure out what do we do with them and how do we deal with them. So again, let's use the Grinch to help us out. Let's start with this, the feeling of loneliness. Think about it. The Grinch was really a lonely old character. Every year he would sit on top of his hilltop and look down on this town, this loving families, these happy Who's in Whoville. But was up there alone with his dog and feeling very alone. Like the Grinch, there are a lot of people who feel very alone this time of year, even when they're surrounded with people, especially when they look around and it appears like everyone else has such loving families to be with, or they have such special friends to spend time with, and they just don't find that in their own friends and family circle. There's some jealousy there. Jealousy is a very common emotion around the holidays when somebody's feeling lonely. And the media doesn't help that. What do we hear playing all the time? The Hallmark Christmas movies where everything is so perfect and they kiss at the end and it's so good. We get all those pretty Christmas cards that are sent out. It's just so normal and Rockwell-ish and it's beautiful and it's perfect. And there's part of us that just longs for this type of experience. But there are many who never have it. The feelings of loneliness can be a Grinch that give us the post-holiday blues. May I ask you to reflect and to think, in what ways are you experiencing loneliness on this January 4th? When you hear from members of your faith communities, you hear loneliness being portrayed? I think it's there a lot more than we realize until we really open up and listen and inquire. I've talked with person after person this week already as they describe the loneliness they're feeling coming out of the holidays. They didn't use the words, but they were experiencing post-holiday blues. Loneliness contributes to that. Let's move on. Another contributing factor. That's quite a picture, isn't it? Unmet expectations is another contributing factor. The Grinch is just feeling so bad about Christmas. He tells his dog, Grinch trivia here. What's his dog's name? Max. Yep, I saw some of you mouthing it. He looks at Max and says, Max, this is how bad it is. It's not the way I want it to be. It's not the way I expect it to be. I have to stop it from coming. Holidays very regularly don't turn out the way we hope they will. Think back over these last couple of weeks, the last month maybe. Are there some things that didn't go the way that you wanted this season? Maybe some of the family dynamics? Maybe some fights that took place? Maybe some disappointments concerning gifts? Maybe some children or other family members or friends who didn't come home. Maybe walking away from this holiday and saying, I just don't feel special. Or there are strained relationships. I had a client this week, very interesting, who was really upset because her son chose not to come home and celebrate Christmas. Instead, he accepted his invitation to go to the Eagles-Giants football game as they played on Christmas Day rather than coming home for Christmas dinner. I don't know how you feel about that. Some of us probably would have chosen the game. For me, since it was the Eagles, I very well might have, being from Philadelphia. But for her, she was devastated. He belonged at home, and he didn't come home. She was experiencing post-holiday blues because of unmet expectations. Let's go on a little more. Okay, you know what the Grinch's problem was, right? It said it in that beginning clip. His heart was 2 sizes too small. For most of us and for most of the members of your faith community, it's not that their heart is too small, but it's that their heart is broken. Another one of those contributing factors that brings the post-holiday blues is the reality of loss. Okay, we could easily have spent the whole time just talking about loss, but loss is magnified this time of year. And it can be losses of any kind. Many of you have gone through the training. You understand this, the death losses, the living losses. What are some of the losses that have become Grinches, that have stolen your Christmas or are stealing your Christmas? Maybe some loved ones who've died over the last year or over the last many years, and they're missed so much in this holiday time. Maybe thinking back to some past traumatic holidays that are remembered and the triggers come and they just cause you to feel like Charlie Brown's so sad. Maybe there are struggles in your church you're dealing with. Maybe you looked out on Christmas Eve and said, there aren't as many people here that were here last year. The finances are a struggle. Attendance is down. We could go on and on. Losses are magnified this time of year, personally and professionally, and it can trigger the post-holiday blues. Charlie Brown felt this way. How have your losses affected your holiday mood? Again, giving you time to reflect today in this January 4th. Another contributing factor. Anxiety about the year ahead. Take a look at poor Max here. How's that for a look of anxiety? You want me to go down this hill? You want me to go over this ledge? You know, for some, the new year brings hope and opportunity. The last year is gone. We have a fresh year. It's time to hit the reset button. It's time for a fresh start. But for many others, it's a very anxious time. There's fear of what's ahead. Maybe saying, I have nothing to look forward to in this coming year. Wondering, what's my job? What's my ministry going to look like over the year? Am I even going to have a job at the end of this year? Maybe for others, there are medical issues that need to be addressed. I've been putting it off, but this year I have to go for that test or that scan. Is there some anxiety about the year ahead that's causing post-holiday blues for you on this January 4th? What are they? We could go on and on with these different things that can bring about the holiday blues. Let's just look at a couple of other factors, a little different perspective of Max's fears as well. That's pretty scary, looking at what's coming after me. Some additional triggers. All the demands of shopping and parties and family reunions and house guests can be really exhausting. So when you get to January 4th, you said, I don't even have the energy to move forward. The commercialization of the holidays. It's easy to lose the real meaning, especially when you're doing church work and you see people just not getting it anymore. There's always so much money to spend this time of year. Maybe it's your plans of trying to create the perfect Martha Stewart holiday and just make it perfect. We could go on and on, but I want to get to the next part. But it starts with identifying which of these contributing factors are affecting me. What are the things that cause me to feel blue? So I invite you to reflect on that and think about, how do all those things have an influence on you? As we move to the second part, which is, what do we do about this? When people come to me from my faith community with post-holiday blues, how do I help them? Or even again, if you're dealing with this and you're feeling a little sad and down and blue, what are the best things I can do on this January 4th? In other words, how do we tame these Grinches that we've just been describing? Well, once again, let's look to the Grinch for answers. The Grinch shows us by his character what we can do. First thing, the Grinch looked in the mirror to see himself for who he really is. What's the first and the best thing we can do? Be real. If we want to tame the Grinches and face and deal with the holiday blues, we first have to be aware of the things that we just shared. What are those Grinches? What are those things that give us the holiday blues? And then to be real about them, to acknowledge them. In other words, to honestly face what you're going through. You know what I see over and over again, especially in the church, is that temptation to just paste a smile on your face and say, oh, everything is just fine. And then just going through the motions. But friends, you know very well that's not helpful. And it's not true just for the church, but especially for leaders in the church, whether you're a rostered leader or a lay leader. I can't be looking sad. I can't come out of this great holiday time and feeling I'm really down and depressed. Sure you can. Because if you don't face it and be real about it, it's just going to come up and come out sideways within you. You're going to deal with it one way or another. And the healthy and best way is by being real about it. It's not bad to experience post-holiday blues. As a matter of fact, it's absolutely normal. And if you say you never do, then I'd really question you and say, are you being real? Are you being honest? You ever preach about that? Do you ever talk about that? How much can you acknowledge for yourself? Yeah, the reality is there's some times in areas of my life where I'm feeling blue right now. Be real about it. And my encouragement all the way through here, and I'm going to say this again and again, is that you just find one or two of these things that are helpful for you. And at the end, I'm going to ask you, what's your one action step that you're going to take to help deal with your holiday blues or to prepare you for dealing with your faith community? You see, I can't tell you what you need to do because you're your own unique person. I don't know what you need. Some of these things are going to be good and helpful for you. Some aren't going to pertain to you at all. That's okay. Then just move on to the next one. That's why you're doing your own reflection and evaluating on this January 4th. So it starts with being real. Take a look in the mirror yourself and say, what's really going on? Second thing the Grinch did. Remember that? Oh, I can't stand Christmas. The noise, noise, noise. What's this point? Express your feelings. The Grinch was good about this. The Grinch really knew how to let it out. How about you? Cry if you need to cry. Rage if you need to rage. Allow those longings, that loneliness, whatever it is that you're feeling, let it out. That's what we call mourning. Those of you who have been part of the grief coach training, you know what this is all about. It's always encouraging people to let it out and providing a safe and a brave space where they can do so. Remember what a safe and brave space really is? If we really had time today, I could quiz those graduates of the program and say, do you remember what this is? It's a place where we allow our clients to hurt. You know what the tendency so many of us have, especially as rostered leaders and lay leaders in the church? We want to make people feel better right away. It's one of the biggest problems of the church is that we're too kind and too loving, and we want to make everybody feel better, when a lot of the times they don't need to feel better. They need to feel worse. They need a place where they can be real and be like the Grinch and just let it out. A safe and brave space is a place where we allow them to hurt, where we allow them to cry without shoving tissues in their face and saying, wipe those tears. It's where we give them permission to feel whatever they want to feel, to say whatever they want to say, to do whatever they want to do. Now, the qualifications I always put on that, you'll remember. It doesn't mean it's ever okay to harm ourselves or to harm someone else or to do things that are illegal and are immoral. But beyond that, to be able to say it's okay to be real, express it, let it out, and not trying to fix them in the midst of it. That's why coaching is the perfect answer to those with post-holiday blues. Because most people don't need to be fixed in those times. They just need somebody to companion them. They need someone to walk the journey with them, to come alongside of them, to do what coaching does. So as you're reflecting on this January 4th, do you provide a place like that for the members of your faith community? And for you personally, whether you're a rostered leader or a lay leader or a coach or whatever your role and title is, do you have safe places to express your feelings like the Grinch did? Let's go to the next one. Don't just express the feelings, but go ahead and ask for what you need. The Grinch did this well. He wasn't afraid to express his needs and saying, this is what needs to happen. I need to stop Christmas. Speak up. You know, others don't know what you really need until you tell them. If you really need somebody to talk to, then say it. I need somebody to listen. If you really want your privacy respected, then ask for it and say, I just need time alone and need some privacy. If you need some companionship, then make it real and say, I'd love to connect with some people. If you want a shoulder to cry on, then express that. You know, each person's response to their loss is unique. So even when you're dealing with members of your faith community, don't expect that you know exactly what they need and say, oh, well, I'm going to be with you all the time because you need that. Ask them. Or if it's you, speak up and share it. Ask for what you need, just like the Grinch did. Another thing to do to face these Grinches, give yourself a break. Remember what happened when the Grinch put these antlers on poor little Max? Remember that story? His head just went down to the ground. It was too heavy for him to bear. And so the Grinch had to saw off the different antlers until there was just the main trunk that went up. What's this saying? It's saying accept your physical and emotional limitations. Be gentle and be patient with yourself. You know, especially this time of year, we sing these carols about the silent nights, about being still and calm. And then we start running around madly, trying to stuff as much in each day as possible. As we're starting a brand new year, what would it be like for you to step out of the whirlwind? To determine to be kind to yourself in this new year and to be realistic about your limitations. Have you been saying yes to everything? and finding that we're only 4 days into the new year and you're already exhausted? Even as we were talking, getting ready for this webinar before others were let in, I've heard people saying it's such a busy week. It's only the first week of the year and we're saying that already. You need to give yourself a break. Be realistic about your physical and emotional limitations. Are you allowing the members of your faith communities to give themselves a break and to set a good pace? How are you doing with this in this new year? In addition to giving yourself a break, about giving others a break. Poor Max made a mistake. Got too close to the sewing machine and his tail got sucked right in. Grinch wasn't very happy about that. But you know what? Sometimes we just need to give others a break. The chances are sometime during this holiday season or in this start to the new year, somebody is going to say something that seems insensitive to you. There are bound to be people who are going to hurt you because that's just part of living in this world in which we live. And, understanding most people really want to help, but sometimes they just don't know how. Sometimes the reality is that people are so caught up in their own post-holiday blues that they don't know how to handle them, and it comes out sideways and affects you. And you're saying, why are they that way? Well, it's because they're dealing with their blues as well. And sometimes we need to understand, or even when we don't understand and don't know, to be willing to give others a break. Are there some people that you are already upset with and frustrated with that maybe you just need to give a break to? Maybe they're the cause of your post-holiday blues right now. What do you need to do to let that go and to move on? Some things to reflect on today. What else did the Grinch do? The Grinch planned ahead. I mean, you need to hand it to the Grinch. The Grinch had a perfect plan, even with costumes and everything needed to be able to go and steal Christmas from the Who's. A sure recipe for feeling overwhelmed is to have no strategy for either going through the holidays or for entering into this new year. This is what I said I'm really hoping you'll get out of this hour. That maybe you'll find just one thing, maybe one step, maybe one action, maybe one reflection that's going to be helpful for you in entering into this new year. To be able to ask yourself for each of these different things that the Grinch did, to be able to say, would this be helpful for me? Or maybe even, would this be hurtful for me and I need to not do it? As you enter into this new year, be careful of the tendency to have to do what everybody else expects for you. It's not about what other people expect. It's about what you know you need to do. Give yourself permission to choose what is best. Because remember, most of the time there isn't a right or wrong way. That's what I'm asking. What is your best way? What do you need to do? And when the emotions, the holiday blues come up, you have a plan for how to respond to them? Whatever it is you need, maybe it's just some breathing exercises. Be ready with them. When you're feeling the sadness and like Charlie Brown felt, breathe. Maybe you need to go out for a walk. Give yourself permission to say, I just need to pause, hit the pause button and go for a walk right now. Maybe there's an encouraging mantra you need to share with yourself. But don't wait until the blues come. Plan ahead. Decide what is going to be helpful for you in these times. How about that picture? Keep expectations realistic or reasonable. It wasn't very realistic expectations for Max. You see him falling into the snow, trying to pull that big load on the sled up the hill, up the mountain. We need to keep our expectations realistic. In coaching, when we talk about helping people plan their goals and their action steps, facilitating client growth, we talk about having SMART goals, making sure they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're time sensitive. Well, maybe we need to apply the same to ourselves as we look at this new year. Are we biting off more than we can chew? What are the expectations? Make sure we keep them reasonable. In the process of doing that, love this picture. Protect your boundaries. This is not very good boundary. We need some personal space here, please. Nobody knows what you're going through the way you do. Nobody knows your loss. Nobody knows your sadness. Nobody knows your blues. No one else knows what you need. In the start of this new year, give yourself permission to say, no, thank you. I'm going to pass on this for right now. Don't let people cross those boundaries and make you do things that you're not ready to do. Personal reflection, self-reflection. How about a good picture? Doesn't Max look happy? Part of the way that we face the Grinches and face the holiday blues is to allow ourselves to have fun. Okay, this is part of it. Sometimes we're struggling and we deal with the end of the year, we deal with the new year, we deal with everything that's ahead. And sometimes we don't even want to give ourselves permission to just stop and have fun and enjoy. Max finally got to do that. He looked like having so much fun. Okay, especially when those are in the midst of grief and dealing with loss. It's sometimes hard and you feel guilty when you're having fun, saying it's just not right. I shouldn't feel that way. Sure it is. In the midst of the mourning, in the midst of the grief, it's okay to enjoy and to have fun and to smile. Let me ask this question. What are you doing for fun in this first week of the new year? In Pennsylvania, where I live, we have a snowstorm planned for this weekend. For me, that's going to be a lot of fun. Hoping it still continues and comes. What are you doing for fun in this first week of the new year? Coming to an end, but keep reflecting, keep thinking. One other thing you might want to do, to not just encourage your parishioners to do this, but to really take some personal time yourself. Claim the promises of Scripture. This can give insight into your holiday blues like nothing else. However you do that, in whatever way is appropriate for you, just a couple of passages, just to get you thinking, to get you reflecting on. How about from Isaiah 40? He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Psalm 34, the Lord's close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. It's okay to be crushed in spirit, but we need to know what to do with it and how to reach out in the midst of it. Or even the Beatitudes, Matthew 5. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Let some passages like this soothe your spirit if that's helpful to you. Ask Spirit to protect you from being consumed by the holiday blues and the grief that is so real this time of year, and to give you strength when you're feeling crushed or mourning. I'm going to give you in just a minute a chance to share what it is that's helping you. You can be thinking about that if you might want to share. We're going to have just a couple of minutes to do that. But a few more. Remember to rest. Remember this picture? The Grinch was trying to steal Christmas in Cindy Lou Who's home, and she woke up, and he tried to encourage her to go back to bed, go back to sleep. Sometimes we just need to get our rest, and beyond just the actual sleeping, I'm just talking here about self-care. Those who went through my training, and that's a number of you, you made up a self-care plan. How are you doing in administering your self-care plan? You remember that? If you wrote it down, do you even know where you have it? Could you pull it out? Maybe it's good to read over it and say, this is what I needed when I was back in class. Now let me do it again. And what is it I really need? You know, I like that acronym REST, to make sure we rest, exercise, simplify to relieve stress, take time for relaxation and remembrance. This is a time to take a fresh look at your self-care plan. It's a great way to face and to deal with the holiday blues. Tame those Grinches. One more thing the Grinch did. The Grinch learned how to celebrate the real holiday. It was when he finally came to the realization of what Christmas was all about, when he thought he had stolen Christmas and the Who's were still singing. He said, maybe it doesn't come from all the gifts and all the material things. Maybe it is something deep in their heart. This can be a really hard thing to do for rostered leaders and lay leaders in the faith communities alike, because you're so busy making this possible for everyone else. You never get time to reflect on it yourself. I know, I was there. What if you take time now to have your own celebration of this holiday? What would that be like for you? What difference would it make? What difference will it make? And how would it help you face the holiday blues? We started with Charlie Brown. I just don't understand Christmas. Instead of feeling happy, I feel sort of let down. How does this apply to your leadership in your faith community? How does this apply to your own personal life and where you are right now? January 4th. What are you dealing with in your own post-holiday blues? And which of these things would help you move forward? We only have a couple of minutes, but I'd like to hear from some of you. What's one action step that you want to take? I invite you to either put it into the chat or just unmute and share it. And this is your own way to kind of have some accountability and say, you know what, this is one thing I really want to do, or what I need to do for my faith community. What's one action step you want to take? Who would like to share? And if not, think on your own. Just reflect on this. What's your own action step going to be? Carol?
Something I've been finding helpful, and it's so obvious, I don't know why I had to read it to be reminded of it. Instead of thinking, what if this happens and it goes sideways, thinking, what if it goes right?
Good.
But our brains are kind of wired to look out for our safety and security. So we go down the path of what could happen that's not right. And I'm finding that it's just kind of helpful because there are lots of times it does go right.
Yeah.
And just remembering, oh yeah, I had to call my mom's insurance, her health insurance. And I talked to someone who was really helpful. And I really dreaded doing that, but it turned out all right.
Wonderful. Thanks, Carol. I see there are a number putting their action steps into the chat as well. Anyone else like to share yours?
Don, I had to start physical therapy. And I was not looking, I don't like appointments. So I was not looking forward to 2 physical therapy appointments a week. Well, guess what? I get up on mornings that I'm having physical therapy, and I can't wait to get there because it makes me feel so much better. So I've decided that when I can no longer get referrals from my doctor for physical therapy, I'm going to pay out of pocket for it.
Good for you. That's great, because you know the difference it makes. And it's willing to make that, you're willing to make that investment in yourself. Good for you.
I'm planning on taking my Christmas decorations down tomorrow, and I'm a little sad about it. So I'm gonna try and find a way to be gentle with myself tomorrow.
Yeah, good for you. That's
But it's
another
not
loss.
12th night yet.
Say that again, Betty.
It's not 12th night yet. You
It's
have to leave
not,
up for yeah, you have to leave it up to Serbian Christmas.
but that's the nice thing. We don't. We can do whatever we want, right?
I'm leaving mine up till Valentine's Day. I like red.
Yeah. And don't
I'm
be
gonna
pressing.
find me a good coach because I realized that all the hustle and bustle of Christmas, I've put off doing something I really want to do. And so, gee, I think I know where I can find some coaches. And I need to move forward with something that I've either been paralyzed about or just fearful, and it's time. It's time.
It's time. You're looking at some great coaches right here in front of you, aren't you?
Amen, brother.
Good. Somebody else.
One thing I hadn't really thought of that I really did like in what you said is that you can always do a redo. That's not your words, that's mine. But Christmas kind of came and went, and I haven't taken mine down. They go down on the weekend, but I was thinking about that the other day, that wow, the whole season just kind of flew by. And I remember Christmas and undoing presents and that kind of stuff, but it wasn't the spiritual time that I normally like. So I like the idea of, instead of mourning that, just then redo it. Sit down for a little bit in front of that tree before you put it down and get in the moment for a little bit. So.
Wonderful. You have one more?
I found I was grieving quite a bit this Christmas. I have my parents divorced when I was young, when I was 18, and my father died in 2006 by suicide. And I found not seeing family for either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day was really hard for me. And I felt like I was missing home. And I realized, as I was processing these emotions that I was having, that that I had a lot of power within myself to create what I was looking for, but for my children, not wanting them to ever feel like they couldn't find home at Christmas. And I decided that my action plan for that was to develop traditions that we do when it's just the 4 of us, because I have 2 kids, when it's just the four of us, that traditions that they can sort of carry on afterwards. And I realized how much tradition is tied to that feeling of home for Christmas and for the holidays. And so that was my experience with with my holiday blues.
Great, Sarah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, all of you, for sharing and for being here today. I really commend you, as I said in the beginning, that you come out on January 4th in the midst of this crazy time to be here. And thank you, Sarah and Daryl, for providing this for your coaches, for the Synod. So wonderful. Sarah, I was asked to close in prayer, and I know you have some things to share. What order do you want that?
If I could just do my sharing really quickly, I just want to lift up that this presentation, this event space is held for you every month on the first Thursday of the month. And in February, we will be meeting with Reverend Jane Pretzby, and she will be speaking with us about faithful youth and about filling our youth with faith. And so we invite you to join us for that discussion around youth and their faith. That would be February 1st, and it'll be at this same place. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at the email address that I put in the chat for Pacifica Coaching Group. And Dawn, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom around post-holiday blues and grief. And please, close us in prayer. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hey, thanks. Please bow with me in prayer. God, I am so grateful for each person who came out today. It shows that they care. They care about the congregations they serve, and they care about themselves and their own health, their physical health, their mental health, their spiritual and emotional health. So God, I pray that even as we look at this fun little story of the Grinch and examples of the Grinch, that we might be reminded of things that we can do to be real about the holiday blues that we experience and to be better equipped to minister to our faith community. And I pray that you would help us to take an action step or a couple action steps to really make a difference as we move forward in this new year. I pray for all these lay leaders and rostered leaders that you would equip them to do all that you called them to do. Thank you for coaching and for the skills of coaching that can be a help in that process. And God, I'm thankful for the real meaning of Christmas, for the opportunity to truly celebrate your love, which was shown like never before in the birth of our Savior. So God, I entrust all these leaders to you, and I ask you to give them wisdom as they move forward into this brand new year. Use them in mighty ways. And I trust them to your care as I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Privileged to be with you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.